to call this thing?
I got it. Okay. Incredible, new, fantastic, astonishing, mighty, original, uncanny, sensational podcast.
I'm just going to put down infamous.
Hello, everybody. Sorry for the late release this week, but real life stuff got in the way. And when we recorded this episode, I had some Discord issues, so I had to restart my computer. And when I logged back in, I heard Jeremy and Parker having a conversation, so I immediately started the backup recording to catch as much of it as I could. I will now let you listen to what they get up to when I'm not stopping them.
Chimichanga Constagon's toenail powers were completely infeasible biologically. He can't create the material that fast.
Whoa,
so
hold on. So Wolverine can regenerate from a single cell, but Jeremiah Constagon can't make enough toenail shavings?
Yeah.
Seems inaccurate.
Chimichanga Constagon can't do it. What happens is, in each of the cuticles of his toenails, there's actually a small portal to the toenail dimension. And what he does is, when he activates his powers, he's just opening a portal, and the toenails from that dimension just come out. So and that's why he has infinite toenails.
In the toenail dimension, is it just like a glacier of toenail material, and you're just like peeling it off like a cheese slicer, and it's just coming out of those portals, or are they just tubes, like giant planks of toenails, just infinitely long on the other side of those portals?
There's 5 planks, but yeah, it's basically there's 10, right?
I would have much preferred it if it was just like a glacier of solid toenail deposit, and it was just like cheese slicering off individual nails for him. Right. It's like, so if you were to go to the toenail dimension, there's just a glacier with like 10 carvings just going away slowly.
Yeah,
that I would have much preferred that.
I like that idea. I think we'll go with that. This has been a good writers' meeting.
Let's go with that. Green light it. Done.
For our next Inhuman concept.
Did you ever watch C-Lab?
Yes.
I saw select episodes.
Oh my god.
This conversation we just had reminded me. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Turns out they were all sitting around a room talking about, no, it's a scorpion. It's on his chest and it keeps stinging him. Yeah, no, go with that. Run. That's fine.
Oh man.
My favorite one was when the lights go out and the whole episode is just them screaming and you just see it from a third-party view of the C-Lab. And it's just like, where are you? I don't know. It's dark. It's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm looking for a flashlight. And then eventually the captain guy shows up and it's like, you have a flashlight. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, kills him like with an axe. And he's like, eventually you get to the end of the episode, and the whole time, anytime someone finds a flashlight, he's like, must destroy the flashlights. And you get to the end, and he's standing in the generator room, and they finally fix the generator so the lights are back on. And it cuts to the inside finally, and you see the captain guy is head to toe like He-Man garb, covered in blood, holding an axe. And he's like, what the fuck have you been doing? And he's like, wait, a generator is like a giant flashlight. There can only be none! And just like slices the generator in half and the C-Lab explodes. He's like, what? He was like, Highlander meets fantastic. Conan the Barbarian meets C-Lab.
Yeah. Oh man. That show's good.
Hello and welcome to Infamous, the audio podcast. This is Brandon, or Mutilus on the forums.
This is Parker. Go by Tweak on forums.
This is Jeremy. I don't use forums, but when I do, I go by Chimichanga Constagon. Every time. All the time.
Oh, I held...
Parker, you almost made it.
I held it together much better than in the pre-ramble. Oh, that was good.
You guys each owe me $10.
It's Jeremy.
Jeremy, your face is bright.
I didn't go into a coughing fit this time.
It's Chimichanga.
Jeremy's
it's spelled like it sounds.
Jeremy's
God,
face.
4 times.
Chimichanga. We need Richard to print off podcast T-shirts, and it's just the Goosebumps girl, Jermager. Consagon.
Spelled like it sound.
My name is Consagon. Jermager. Consagon.
Here he comes, Jermagar.
Wearing a tux, drinking
I didn't make that up.
Bang energy drink.
That's a dude's name.
Do what?
I didn't make that shit up. That's his name.
What do you mean you didn't make that shit up?
Well, it's black instead of my name, and then it's Bolt instead of Constant. Like, it's fucking stupid, regardless.
Okay, so,
All right, so quick announcements now that we've screamed into our microphones. So like I said last week, we're not going to have battle reports for a little bit still because my work schedule is very full at the moment. So I will hopefully get some more battle reports out to you guys this weekend. We had a request on YouTube, so hopefully he listens to the podcast as well as watches battle reports, asking for A-Force battle reports. I've got, I think, 2 in the can already, so hopefully we'll get those out this weekend. But I'm very backlogged. We have plenty recorded. They're just not out yet because I have had no time to edit them. All right. So, Parker, are you ready?
yeah.
Let's do it.
News.
News.
All right, so we got some news. Our news this week is all about the very last and goodest boy in the Inhumans. We have his card now. Lockjaw's card is out. We know a lot of things about him. The big ticket item, the one everybody was most concerned about after his panel to play, was his point cost. He is a 3-point model, which is a big deal because of his incredible support abilities. It would be very sad to see him, I think, at 2 points. We'll talk about that in a moment. But a lot of his stuff made good on his panel to play. He also he does have a throw, which is pretty cool. He has an interactive terrain feature throw that was not listed on his panel. We now know that we knew about Interdimensional Bloodhound, the ability to give additional die to against a chosen character into infinite range for 3 power. We knew that he would teleport, and it's any character within 3 placed within 3 of its current position, and you can only do it once. It costs 2. He has the Inhuman ability. And the Who's a Good Boy, which they just listed very vaguely, is a passive power. At the start of his activation, if there's another character within 2 of him, he gains 3 power. So automatically gaining 4 power a turn if he starts his activation close to somebody. So he gains 1 power at the beginning, and then if somebody either ends their activation next to him or he starts right then next to somebody, he'll be a 4 power character. Like other Inhumans, he is immune to poison. Move small. So
yeah, he's gonna be on at least a medium though. We saw in the pictures before. I don't remember. I think it's a medium.
Yeah, he's gonna be in a medium.
But anyway, important points for me. Teleport being an action is very important. It does kind of prevent him from going crazy. And interdimensional Bloodhound costing 3 is important. Not being able to do both of these is pretty big, I think. If he was able to do both, that'd be really, really, really too strong, I think. But I think he actually landed in a pretty happy place.
Wait, why can't he do both?
I mean, he could do both, but he's not doing both every turn.
Right, if he goes down to 0.
He's not just...
Yeah. My big deal is 3 points. Because if he was another 2-point drop-in solo that he, we saw, meandering around like a mercenary to every single group, giving everybody access to those supportive things, I think that would be too much. In an earlier podcast when we were talking about his panel to play, the first thing we said is we really don't want to see another 2-point. Everybody's got to take this character. So I really like that he's 3 points.
Well, I don't think they would print a 2-point character with the teleport action. That would be freaking insane.
Yes, that's what we said, and I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah.
Jeremy, you before the podcast, you said his 3-point thing. What did you think about it? You said you wanted to talk about it.
It made me sad because I'm not excited about Inhumans, but I am excited about his abilities. So now I'm actually going to have to think about it. He's not a no-brainer, which is good. That all of those things are good. And the fact I really dig that they made his teleport an action. It's a monstrous action, and it is so good. But for 3 points, you do have to think about it. I mean, because he is not kicking anyone's ass on his own. Like, he's definitely a support piece. A 3-point support piece, that's a lot, but it's still good.
I think he's going to be pretty comparable to Shuri long term.
Mm-hmm. I like that he can teleport himself and then use Drop It to throw things. Like, he can actually do a little bit of damage out of nowhere. Like, if you're not careful, he can throw something size 3 at you from a long way away from where he starts his action. If he costs a lot of power, but he can do it. I think it's pretty cool.
I think people are going to underestimate how hard it's going to be to use the good boy response every turn. It'll obviously be easy in earlier turns, but if you have to combine spending an action to use teleport with move short, he's not going to keep up with people very long. And so he's going to get a lot of power for that turn 2 teleport, but then after that, he's going to run dry pretty quickly, I think, unless he's actually up in the fight. And if he's up in the fight, his defensive stats aren't insane. Like, he is killable, and he's also, like, you can move him out of the way. So, like, if you set it up to where you can split him away from the rest of their team, he can't go first and teleport people because you need to move somebody else next to him. And if you're using an action to move somebody next to Lockjaw so that he can teleport, well, then you're just not teleporting. So, like, that's I think what's going to happen in later turns. But, towards actual end game scenarios, he'll have time to catch up and start doing that again. So I think it's going to be kind of like a burst mechanic where it's like you have the lot of early game potential and then some good late game potential.
I think Who's a Good Boy could read, this character will start the first engagement with 6 extra power. It kind of like is functionally what it'll be. And then, like you said, later in the game, you might get more power later. But really, it's you'll have 6 extra power at the beginning of the first engagement because you'll probably get 2 turns of Who's a Good Boy, and then you'll have to do other things.
Yeah, I think the 2 turns is pretty much guaranteed. I think long term, most games you'll probably look at about 3.
He can use some of the short range, high power cards, though, couldn't he? Aren't there some shorter range, high power cards that you could count on him to use, or your opponent would have to deal with? Well, he could
play. I think one you'll be seeing a lot is Follow Me. If you do the math, he's going to end up with 8 power on turn 2, and he's going to be able to teleport and play Follow Me.
Yeah.
And you just immediately activate the teleported character.
That's pretty good. And Follow Me is a card I love, but I could never seem to fit it in.
Never makes lists. Yeah.
But Lockjaw,
it's almost like we need more roster slots for Tactics cards.
It's almost like that. But I like also that Lockjaw has Follow Me because he's a dog. He's in front and you follow him. I like that. So that's about what we found out about Lockjaw.
That's a little cute.
Yeah. We got Deadpool's panel to play. We found out that Deadpool has a couple different things in this panel to play. First of all, hats off to the folks who wrote the panel to play with very Deadpoolian flavor. If you haven't seen it yet, it starts to read just like a regular panel to play, but then Deadpool himself has redacted it and replaced it with his own version of his panel to play, which I think is fantastic. It uses his inner monologue thing that he's famous for in the comic books. So if you haven't actually read the panel to play, it's entertaining. We know his one of his main attacks is Bang Bang Bang, which is he fires off his gun with 4 dice.
The name of the attack is Bang.
Right. Yeah, the name of the attack is Bang. And if you fire off, it was 4 dice attack, and if you roll, is it a wild? You get to immediately bang again.
Yeah. Then you get to Bang Bang.
Right.
And then if you get 2 wilds on Bang Bang, you get to Bang Bang Bang.
Right.
I think it was 2 wilds.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's harder to do as he rolls. But
it does get harder every time.
But
I'm checking.
But potentially he gets 3 different attacks.
Sorry, it's Bang, and then if you get a hit and a wild, you get to Bang Bang. If you get a wild and 2 hits on the Bang Bang, you get to Bang Bang Bang.
Got it. We know that he has Healing Factor 2, and they mentioned that he doesn't have a lot of stamina, but he does have Healing Factor 2. So he'll be healing like Wolverine. He has an ability a passive that you don't want to go inside of his mind to try to control him, so you can't force him to move, and that interacts with exactly Enchantress, Mind Stone, and MODOK, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we know there are two other rules that he mentioned: maximum effort, which apparently is going to allow him to maybe move and attack, and all right, now it's serious. Both of those were just kind of vague. We're not exactly sure what they do, but those are other abilities on his card. So,
just real quick, specifically Loki, in addition to the Mind Stone, because Loki also has illusions, which advances somebody potentially. So, but Loki's the most common user of the Mind Stone, but technically there's. So let's see, it's Loki, Enchantress, MODOK, Ebony Maw, Thanos. Trying to think if there's another Mind Stone user. I think that's it. 5 characters currently that it interacts with.
So, what are your guys' initial thoughts on Deadpool, what we know about him so far?
I think they're leaning a little bit heavier into the fun over functional, which is fine with me. But I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting Deadpool to be a meta-bending, like, mechanics character, just because of his popularity. But yeah, it looks like he's going to be more of, I just want to have fun, let's put Deadpool on the table. Which is fine. Also, people have been speculating he's going to be like a 5 or a 6 point character. I think that's effectively guaranteed to be not true at this point.
Yeah.
I think honestly, I'm leaning towards 3 points. Because I think if you do the math and he's a 3 point character, he could have 5 stamina and a 4 dice ranged attack makes sense for a 3 point character.
I actually like the idea of a healing factor 2 on a 3 point character too. I like that.
Yeah. He basically, if he lives through an attack, he's good. Also, I guess we could wait a second to talk about the other thing, but
Jeremy, do you have anything you want to add about what we know about panel to play?
I like the idea of his funny attack with the bang 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 stuff when you start adding tactics cards that increase dice for attack. Just because it's like a 2% or something silly to actually just pull it off just as a 4 dice attack, but it increases kind of exponentially once you get like the extra 3 dice for what is that card that gives you 3 attack dice and it drops your defense? The tactics card?
Oh,
it adds your physical defense to your physical.
Yeah, so it's probably 3.
Doom Prophecy.
Yeah.
Doom Prophecy. So I think he'll be at least 3 physical.
So that'll be fun to add that in there. Yeah, things like that. Just interesting. I like stuff that's interesting. And if he's at 3 points, he'll be worth just jamming in lists, do stuff.
So Parker, did you talk about his other rules already?
The other one in the panel to play?
Yeah. Did you talk about maximum effort and
yes,
all right?
Yes, but we don't know what to do yet. Yep. Yes, I mentioned
right. That. So I'm speculating that the maximum effort is definitely going to be rerolls, right? As a generic rule, I think he'll be a lot like Zemo for the rerolls. He might not help other people, but I think he's going to be like reroll 1 on everything, which is why he has a small dice pool.
It says maximum effort. It says it's a weaponized dance party that lets me tango through the bad guys. I actually think maximum effort is going to be a move and attack, like you attack and then you move, or you move and attack.
I guess that's possible.
I think it'll be.
I was really expecting to have rerolls, which would obviously make the sequential bangs more possible.
All right, now it's serious. Could be rerolls. They don't say what it is at all. So,
I guess that sounds a lot more like a reactive power. I mean, obviously we're still speculating, but could be anything. I think he's gonna have some way to reroll dice. I mean, maybe it'll be like, okay, now it's serious. Spend 2. You can like reroll any number of dice on your next attack. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. And then I think that's probably all we can talk about him. We didn't get very much information. We did get some though.
But we did get his a lovely Deadpool card, the Chimichanga card. What's the actual name of that thing again? I forget what the.
I think it's just it was cut off of the picture I saw.
Yeah, it looks like.
I think it's just called Chimichangas.
Yeah. So it's an unaffiliated but Deadpool only card. He spends 1 to play it. He automatically adds an objective token asset to the game. He starts holding it immediately. At the end of the character's activation, if it's holding the Chimichanga, it gains 1 power and removes 1 damage or 1 special condition. And then any character may use the following interactability: interact with Chimichanga, pick it up. So basically, it's just like a regular interact kind of token. Deadpool gets to start with it, but of course, if you knock him down, or if you daze him or KO him, or have an ability to steal assets, then you can pick it up. And man, what an asset!
Yeah. I know we kind of trashed on it last time, but I think the card is specifically so he can get that back from people. Like, so you can use Logan to pick it up, and then later on he can take the Chimichanga from Logan.
His other tactics card we talked about.
Yeah, because we trashed on it last time. Because you're like, when are you going to need to take an asset away from Logan? That's really unlikely. And I'm like, well, it's called Yoink.
Yeah.
Wolverine is holding an objective token and is within range to Deadpool. Place the objective held by Wolverine on Deadpool's card. Deadpool's now holding it.
Mm-hmm.
So, important things about this one, obviously only Deadpool benefits from having it, and so the only reason someone else would pick it up is to deny it to him, which is kind of interesting.
What?
I like this card a lot, though.
Nope.
What do you mean?
You get the ability. It's a token that gives you 1 power and removes 1 damage, or a special condition, if you're holding it.
Did I misread it? Let me double check.
Yeah. It says at the end of a
Deadpool's
character's
one
activation.
Oh, yeah, I saw the Deadpool, and I read the period as a comma.
Mm-mm.
That's my bad. Yeah, so anyone gains the effect. Sorry.
Yeah, it is it's an Extremis station plus a Cosmic Cube, or you can remove a special condition. Man, I think it's a crazy strong asset. It doesn't, of course, give you an objective point, but
yeah,
talk about
it's pretty cool.
Just out of curiosity, the first thing I thought of when I read this card was asset passing in criminal, right? Can't criminals pass assets? Or can they only pass civilians?
They can. I think it costs... no, I think they pass any asset. I'll double check real quick. Illicit network. Move 1 asset or civilian token.
So...
Cost 2 power. And they can only do it once per turn, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
A character cannot hold more tokens.
So
once per turn.
Does Deadpool have...
Oh, no, it's once per turn at any time during an allocation. So, yeah, every character's turn you can do it.
So the character who wants it spins 2, right? Not Deadpool would not be the one who has to spin the 2.
Anytime during an allied character's activation, it may spend 2 power to use this leash ability. Move 1 asset token being held by the active character to another character.
So Deadpool would have to
within
spend
3.
Yeah.
It's within 3, though. That's pretty far.
But Deadpool would have to spend 1 power to pop Chimichanga, and then 2 more at some other point to give the Chimichanga to somebody else. But if you wanted somebody else to have the Chimichanga, if that was something you wanted to do, could you? I mean, Jeremy, you've played Criminals a bunch. Who in Criminals would be buck nasty if they had an extra power and the ability to remove a damage every turn?
Kingpin. Period.
Wolverine.
Kingpin.
Wolverine.
Kingpin has one of the best powered abilities in the game. Staggers your ass. He hits so goddamn hard if he has enough power. I love him with extra power.
And he would heal, and he actually
though.
takes 1 less. He has the ability to pop a power to take 1 less damage, right? So
Yeah.
So yeah,
He can
give him
use
the
it.
ability to heal on
No,
top
it'd
of
be
that.
good on him.
Give the fat
Yeah,
guy a
there you go.
chimichanga, man. For God's sake.
There you go.
Fat
Oh my
boy
gosh,
likes to
Deadpool,
eat.
You have to make Deadpool has to give just terrible ribbing every time he gives that chimichanga to Kingpin. It's like, you need it more than me, big guy. Here you go.
Oh, exactly. Are you hungry?
That's great.
Boop, boop, boop. And he just pokes him a little. Boop, boop, boop.
So you heard it first here on Infamous. New chimichanga meta, Criminal Syndicate. Chimichanga meta incoming.
Fat guy wants his taco.
Yeah. So that was the news for this week. Of course, Inhumans coming out very soon, so we'll have Inhumans in the meta too. That's another bit of news, but more about that.
All right, so moving into currently playing. This is when Parker stops talking for about an hour.
Not a whole hour, just
1
a couple
hour.
minutes. I'm actually decided.
So,
go ahead.
in recent topics, I've been trying out A-Force, and they're both better and worse than I imagined in weird ways. So I was really excited to do the special delivery combo with Angela and She-Hulk. And then as I was reading the cards about to do it, I was like, wait, this doesn't work. Because I was going to use the Blades of Ichor, her Angela's range attack, so that she gets to advance short towards the target, and then use that to trigger special delivery. But special delivery says move action, not advance. And so I was like, oh, that's way worse because you can't combo it. And so really, I don't know, expensive model like Angela, you kind of feel bad wasting a move action to trigger it. And so it was kind of sad. I don't know. So then I was trying to do it with Captain Marvel, but Captain Marvel wants to move even less than, Angela does. So it was just like, damn, if only I had a 3-point garbage model that had flight and speed long
Crystal
to drop off She-Hulk for me.
Crystal.
Nah, well, I was going to say Wasp because Crystal's not out yet. But
Oh.
I said garbage model, Parker.
Well, why would you use a garbage model when you have actually a pretty good model that does the same thing and it's the same points?
What good model are you referring to?
Crystal's.
She's not out yet.
She's basically out.
Unlike you, Parker, I actually play games now, not theoretically in the future.
That's true.
Mystical
the name of this segment
mind games that
the name of this segment is currently playing, not hypothetically playing. That's right.
When you say crystal, I get confused.
Pretending.
Do you mean Crystalia Almaquelin?
Yeah, Crystal Almaquelin. Yes, that's who I'm talking about.
I once went to a party and they had that, and I got so trashed on the Crystal Almaquelin.
Yeah, I bet.
Like we were talking about earlier, NyQuil and Zima is what it is.
What's the ratio on that? Is it like 1 drop of Zima per NyQuil bottle?
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
So did you win your game?
I'm trying to think. I did win my game. It was actually pretty close. I played against basically my Cabal list because Jason was... we basically did a walkthrough game with Jason because Jason was getting frustrated with his X-Men list. And so I built him a list and we did kind of a talk-through game. It's like, all right, well, who do you want to activate? It's like this person. It's like, all right, well, what's your plan with this person? And we talked about like other options or priority and like order of activation stuff a lot during the game. We recorded this one. It'll be up hopefully this weekend. But it came down pretty close. There was some pretty swingy moments. But basically what ended up happening is I got a scenario lead but I did it at the expense of my model surviving. And so She-Hulk died, I think, on turn 2.
Whoa.
Maybe turn 3. She died pretty early. Which, right? Because she's pretty beefy. Like, she doesn't go down as easy as regular Hulk does. I think I only bodyguarded like once. But I mean, it's MODOK and Magneto. So, like, they can get some stuff done if they really try. And so I think I was actually pretty lucky that she survived as long as she did.
I was going to say, MODOK and Magneto, they can get some stuff done when they barely glance your direction. It's like, is that a She-Hulk?
What's that over there? And things just start exploding. You're like, oh, God. Yeah, so anyway, it was an interesting game. But basically, we came down to desperation scenario play, where it's like, Red Skull activates, moves Magneto so he's in range to get to this point to clear it off. And then, like, also we have to assume these two models fail to flip over these secure tokens. And it's like, oh, well, it ended up being pretty close. It basically came down to Magneto failed 2 rolls to take the Mutant Madman mission. And so he rolled 3 dice twice and didn't get either of them. If he got one of them, he could have won. And so it was a pretty close game. But yeah, so A-Force... they don't synergize as well as I was initially expecting, but the individual standalone models in the list are better than I expected them to be. So,
what was your list?
The one I played was She-Hulk, Angela, Captain Marvel, Black Widow, and Valkyrie. Yeah. It's pretty awesome. By the way, handing out power to Captain Marvel every time someone takes damage... amazing. Like 100% as good as you think it is.
Yeah.
Figured out that binary
100%.
form problem, huh?
Yeah. Binary form being automatically permanent. Like, She-Hulk died, I was still binary forming. That's how much power she had got me before she died. Because, like, She-Hulk takes 3, She-Hulk takes 3, She-Hulk takes 3, She-Hulk takes 3. And it's like, well, give one Captain Marvel, give one to Valkyrie, give one to Captain Marvel, give one to Valkyrie. It's just like she hands out so much power. It's so nice. I misplayed my tactics cards a little bit. I probably could have been a little bit better, and I should have just bit the bullet and gone in. MODOK is no longer unkillable. She-Hulk kills MODOK.
Oh, yeah?
That's how that works. Yeah, she just says, I roll 11 dice, fuck your wilds, and then she throws you into something, and you're like, oh, okay, well, this is not going well. She's like, enjoy this tanker truck, and also here's 2 11 dice attacks that cost 3 power each. And you're like, oh god. Because they hit you for like 5, and she gains 5, and you're like, uh-oh.
How does she roll 11 dice?
She spends 3 power for superior weight training to add your size to her attack roll.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so it's 7 dice base plus the 4. So she gets 2 11 dice strikes that actually gain power for damage. So she not only hits you super hard, she gets power back. Then she can spend, I think it's 3 to throw size 4 terrain. And so you just throw a size 4 thing into Modok, he takes like 4 damage. Yeah, so he goes down pretty quick if she can get there. But since she has aggressive and bodyguard, you pretty much have to be really cautious of how you deal with her. And that was an interesting interaction. I'm very glad that she is that threatening to big models like that. And then obviously you also have Angela, who can do a bunch of damage to big targets as well.
That's a lot of dangerous threatening models in that list. I like that.
Except for hey, Jason, play Modok, and I'll play these other 2 models, and we'll just see how it goes. Yeah. You're such a dickhead.
Oh, don't worry, because the answer is you don't kill Magneto. So you get to Magneto and like, oh, you're size 2, huh?
Oh.
Interesting. Shit. Oh, and you're good against dodges, huh? Oops. I'll just throw you into... Oh, wait, I can't do that. Shit! Alrighty, cool. Oh, and she just never gets to activate against Magneto. He just does so much damage. He'll just kill her before she gets to attack him.
Yeah, I bet.
Alrighty, Jeremy, did you have anything you want to talk about currently playing?
No. I think the last game I played... So I guess the answer is yes. The last game I played was the 9-point Thanos with Magneto and Sabretooth. It did everything I thought it would do. It was pretty stupid. I have heard other like rumblings of people starting these 3-point lists or 3 model lists, and we've been talking about it for months. People, it's a thing. It's fucking scary. Like, be prepared. If you're not ready for it, it's going to ruin your game. You won't know what to do. It's something of it's entirely different than what you're used to. That's all I'll say about it.
Yeah. Alrighty, so moving on. Our main topic today is we're going to do some Inhumans, theory crafting, and mocking. Alright.
What would we be mocking?
Full disclosure. If only I could think of something you guys will make fun of about the Inhumans. But, just full disclosure, I am not an Inhumans fan. I think their whole concept is poorly executed from a aesthetic standpoint. The original idea, I think, is actually kind of cool, but I don't know. I think none of the characters are relatable. We've talked about this briefly before. None of the characters are relatable. They're just very distant and boring. Basically, they're DC characters, and so they're not fun. Outside of that, though, their mechanics seem kind of interesting. So these guys want to talk about them a little bit. I'll probably just let them go for the most part, and I'll chime in. So first off, let's talk about the best Inhuman, Lockjaw, because he has the best name. Lockjaw.
His name makes sense.
I actually thought he was going to be like Lockjaw, like Slayer of Humans or something, but I guess not.
Lockjaw, Dogagon.
Yeah.
Well, you're the fan of all these Inhumans, Parker. You start out on all these.
Okay.
Like Parker's been a diehard Inhuman fan for as long as I've known.
We almost.
I will say that Inhumans. I go ditto with, but you guys can't see it because it's a podcast. But as soon as as Brandon said, describe them as they're basically DC characters, I nodded as hard as I can. I nodded my head. That's a perfect description of why these guys are so difficult to relate to. But when they started putting models into this game and giving them rules, this looks really fun. This looks like exactly my favorite thing. They mod dice all the time, just passively, which is my favorite thing. And I love to do it on offense and defense. More modding, more better. I love being able to take one dice and turn it into another dice. And Medusa is a monster. I think she is going to be super strong. She's one of those characters that you read her, and at first you're like, okay, that's a lot of different stuff, but how good is this really? And I think once she goes down on the table, she's going to be much more than the sum of her parts, actually. I think she's going to be really strong. The ability to move around characters, move around enemy characters. At range 3, throw them is huge because they're going to take damage potentially and just move them off of points. Combine that with speed medium. I think their ability to do Royal Decree, like to move herself and other characters, is just tons of uses we've already seen in the Storm. Like when you read the rule, you're like, oh, that seems really good, but when you actually put it on the table, it becomes really scary. I think Medusa is actually going to be like the key figure in Inhumans. She's not the leader, but I think she's going to be the one that seems broken all the time. I think she's going to be the one that is abusable. She also has a really high skill ceiling. I think the more you play her, the more you will unlock her abilities, even though they're all written on her card. I think Crystal is is fine 3-point turret type model. I like the idea of her. I love that she's speed long. And Lockjaw has got some great utility and support. I like that their package is only 4 characters, so there's lots of other things you can throw in there. We know that at least Crystal and Medusa will be an A-Force also, so the fact that Crystal, I think, is such a good fit for most A-Force squads because of her speed long and flight for the drop-off for She-Hulk, I think Inhumans and A-Force is going to be a really cool combo. It'll give you lots of abilities to do different things. The only one in there that is disappointing me right now is Black Bolt. I don't like his power, like his team affiliation is fine.
Would you like me to sell you on Black Bolt?
Yeah, actually, I would love for you to, because he's the only one that I read and I went, okay, like I'm not.
All right, hold on.
I don't love it, but
all right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, so you run him directly at the enemy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get him dazed on turn 1, right? All right, so that means he's going to gain 5 power for being dazed, plus the 1 he normally gets. Then you will use the affiliation bonus to have everyone on your team dump their power on him, right? So the whole point of this is that you're going to have a 10 power injured Black Bolt on turn 2, right? Okay. Then you run another one of your characters into the middle of their army, right? To get that person killed immediately. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
I'm not done yet.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Then you respond with Seeing Red. You ready? All right. 3 cost power. Play when an allied character is dazed or KO'd by an enemy effect. Another allied character within 2 of that character may spend 3 power to play this card. After the enemy attack is resolved, this character makes 1 attack against the character that caused it. And you use Whisper, right? Beam, Stagger, 9 dice energy attack. Boom! It was totally worth sacrificing 2 of your own people to accomplish this amazing feat of death cannons. But think about it. You can stagger multiple people during the enemy's turn. Isn't that cool?
Huh.
So therefore, actually, I'm curious how this works. Because a lot of people say stagger has to be your first action. I actually want to look this up now. Does stagger have to be shaken first? Or if you gain stagger mid-activation, do you then have to shake with the second action? I'm checking now. When a character activates, its first action must be to shake. Okay, so no, it would not. They would just keep the stagger action for an entire round.
So if they're not dead from a 9-die attack, which they might not be. Because it is turn 2, and you haven't done anything to touch their team yet. All you've done is set up this Rube Goldberg machine.
That is correct.
Well done, sir. Right.
The last thing I was going to say about them is their tactics. The other tactics cards, the not that nonsense that Brandon just said, their actual tactics cards are all super strong, and I love things like Follow Me and some cards that are amazing, but in Lockjaw can play them. I think you're going to be able to play some other tactics cards besides just the traditional ones that you always play always. I think there'll be some ones that you don't always see coming into this list as well. So I really like Inhumans because I think it'll be a little bit different. I think it'll feel a little different than some of the other factions in the game right now.
So, in your opinion, and both of you, like, I'm looking at each one of these individually and kind of trying to see what exists out there now as kind of the lists and the meta of, say, criminals or spider people and web warriors and all that. Like, do any of these models like auto fit? Are they like replacing something that you're already using and they do it better than the one they did?
Crystal replaces Wasp because the only reason she exists is she's a speed long flyer. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
All right, so what's our point cost here? Our combined point cost is 15 for 4.
Yes.
That's not overly inspiring considering one of them is a support model.
Uh-huh.
I just don't see how Black Bolt is worth the 5 points. His affiliation ability is terrible. That being said, the affiliation cards are amazing. So I expect people will play Inhuman specifically to get the affiliation cards available. And if you're going to do that, you might as well have Black Bolt, right? He's 4/4/2. Having a big weakness on a 5-point model is kind of meh. 14 total hit points is above average, but not like crazy above average. The fact that their faction tends to want to get injured very quickly seems odd. Makes me feel like they're not going to be good in scenarios. But who knows? Maybe they'll have a scenario card that interacts really well with injured people. Like the flip ones aren't too bad for the injured people because you're not just fighting one-on-one on a point like some affiliations get stuck with.
Speaking to Jeremy's point about taking them out of faction if you're not inspired by Inhumans, I think Web Warriors actually likes any of them because Web Warriors, their package is so small. They want to see people that can reroll also, and I think the ability to reroll skulls when you're near objectives. Now you're rerolling on offense and defense, so you're rerolling. If you're an Inhuman in the Web Warriors, you're rerolling 2 dice on defense every time, and you're rerolling skulls near objectives if you're holding a token. And then on offense, you're rerolling 1 dice, and that can be a skull. I think it's an awesome just passive value. And since Web Warriors like 3-pointers and they like 4-pointers because they're so cheap, they don't need a really 2-pointer right now. I think Medusa is the only one that might get actually played in Web Warriors, and I don't think it has anything to do with her reroll. I think it's 100% just for board manipulation. Rerolls are good, and getting to reroll your skulls is nice, but the amount of times that you don't have another die to reroll, because you're talking about rerolling 1 die on offense and 2 dies on defense. They have people in their affiliation that already roll more than that, and that's a very small factor determining who makes the list. Like, you don't play Miles over Gwen because he has spider senses. You play him because he's better in the situation. Mm-hmm. Like, the rerolling is nice, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a big enough selling point to justify Medusa in a Web Warrior list to me. The reason she's going to make the list is because she has board manipulation, right? Right.
So does she go in I think, Wakanda? Is she a Wakandan by nature? Because one of the things I like about
Medusa's kind of like a PlayStation. I think she only does everything. Like, she can kill things. Uh-huh. She can board manipulation, and Wakanda actually fits that style too. A lot of their models can kill things, and they can also just inherently manipulate the board. That could be something. She definitely fits that style for sure.
Okay, so Lockjaw, where does he fit? Who's using Lockjaw now?
He fits everywhere. He teleports people.
Well, I know, but for 3 points, who has 3 points to spare?
Every list has 3 points to spare.
I think
it's if your list need teleport? That's.
I'm not getting rid of Ant-Man for Lockjaw. Jesus.
Oh yeah, yeah. God forbid.
Who's a good? We talked about this earlier. Who's a good one might be hard to keep a hold of, but protector factions. If you got protectors and you want to use protector, Lockjaw can follow them around. I don't know if it's worth 2 models that kind of link to each other. You're using a lot of your actions to do that, but it means Lockjaw's getting more power.
Protectors tend to move more than other characters do to stay in protector range.
Right. That's probably a kind of a trap. That's probably a trap.
Yeah.
But it's just a thought. There's a reason to be within range 2 of something. If there are any other models you had that had a reason to be within range 2, you could double that up with Lockjaw.
It's this weird counter logic where you're like, okay, I want to put someone next to Lockjaw that will stand by Lockjaw. So you're like, well, let's get like a support or a ranged character. You're like, but the whole point to have Lockjaw is to move people that need to be moved. And you're like, well, but then they're not standing next to Lockjaw, so I need. And you're like, well, I'll take. So yeah, you would think you want to take like a ranged character that doesn't need to move a lot, like maybe a Hawkeye. But then that's like the worst person to pair him with because he doesn't want the teleport. Mm-hmm. And so really all he's doing is standing around bloodhounding people, which he can kind of do without a friend. Obviously easier with a friend, but...
I had a crazy thought in my head just now. Like, what would happen if you put Wong next to him for this 5-point little, I'll support everything all the time, always. Like, you want to move? I'll get you move. You want you want some energy? I'll get some energy. You want some extra red dice? Here's some extra red dice. It's just an interesting idea I just had, but I do not know. I think spending 5 points is too expensive for that, but I wonder.
It's way too expensive. Yeah. You can't be down a third of your list.
Yeah. You can to play Black Bolt.
Oh God.
I interrupted you, Jeremy. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just 5 points is like, you gonna take him? You're gonna take that little thing instead of MODOK? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm having trouble just kind of figuring out. They're all priced like Medusa's the only one who I feel like you can put her in any list and probably be happy and like, oh, that's a good move, that worked out. Things happened and she did a job and I liked the job. The rest of them are kind of, I don't know.
I think Crystal's actually going to get the most play long term.
Yeah, long movers are always good.
Yeah, I think long movers with ranged attacks are handy. But mainly she's a 3-point character that can actually fight, and she can actually fight pretty well. I think and she also brings stuff like Incinerate to a battle. That's pretty handy. Plus the rerolls. Like she's a very cheap, self-contained character that you can put in pretty much any list. I mean, she gets basically 3 actions a turn if you're paying attention. Yeah, she gets rerolls. She effectively rolls 5 attack dice. It's pretty handy. She's not amazing. Like, I don't think she's crazy good. I think Medusa's better than her. Like, when Medusa's good, she's better than Crystal.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know that people are going to... Like, we don't even put Black Panther in lists, and I think Black Panther's better than her.
Ooh, is Black Panther better than Medusa? Yeah.
Medusa does more things, but Black Panther does his stuff better.
Right. Also, Black Panther can just live forever. He can go Highlander and just...
Like, 3s across the board, even with a reroll, like, trust me, like, you know, Gwen dies. Like, she doesn't live that long.
Right. That's actually one of the things about the Inhumans that, across the board on the Inhumans, unless you want to play 2 power on Black Bolt, their defenses are pretty thin. Any, like, offensively minded list, I think, is going to carve through them pretty quickly.
Yeah. And I think they were trying to balance them around the concept that, well, they're really good once they get injured, but I don't know. It seems kind of flimsy to me, unless the missions change noticeably.
Well,
I think everything.
What they is it just Black Bolt that you're talking about gets better injured?
Black Bolt's obviously his injured side's a lot better, but no, there's one of the cards they had is like when they get injured, stuff happens, right? Am I misremembering?
You get power, yeah.
Ah, that's right. Yes, that's correct.
Atalan Rising.
Mm-hmm.
All allied Inhuman characters gain 1 power for each allied injured Inhuman character.
Yeah, that's so good. if you just
they're supposed to be the comeback faction. Yeah. Like they're supposed to be able to come back from the brink.
I still love their Terragenesis card. That one is going to be awesome. Just playing that.
The blow up the guy holding the objective.
Hey, buddy, what's that you got there? Blam.
And let's not forget last minute save for Lockjaw, which is not affiliated with Inhumans. So if you really wanted to keep a character alive, he can always pull him out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think Medusa has specific, like, very niche places she gets played, and she's probably good there. I think Crystal's very flexible for, like, an actual play model. But Lockjaw is obviously, like, king support, right? Like, he's going to be more supporty than pretty much any other support model you can take, other than maybe Wong. But he's more expensive. And then, like, you have access to the Lockjaw card as well. Are you sure that's unaffiliated? I thought that one was.
It's unaffiliated. It just says reaction.
Okay.
Reactive Lockjaw.
Yeah, so I looked at the Lockjaw card, and I was like, So how can you make someone just like quit the game? So between like trying to kill Wolverine and then zoinking him out of there and like Wolverine's like healing card and all that other shit. Oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
You can make some of them guys just unkillable.
Yeah. Yeah, Terrigenesis is so strong. I think that I'm excited to play Inhumans. I like that the faction identity is kind of, they're not not paper dragons, right? Because they're not actually, with the exception of Medusa. Medusa looks like the one that if you get the dice, Medusa can just carve through lots of big things. If you flip over Black Bolt and he gets all the power, then he can do some things. But I don't think they're blow up the world kind of. None of them are MODOK, right? None of them are Magneto. None of them are, Doctor Strange with, a big stone. They're not that kind of characters. But I like that they're all, none of them are super weak. Black Bolt's the least impressive, but none of them are super weak. And then they have some fantastic cards, and their passive, I think, is going to be a lot stronger. I think the Inhuman passive is going to pay dividends. I played a lot of X-Wing, and in X-Wing, re-rolling one 8-sided dice, it doesn't save every game. Like, you can go one game and Black Bolt will only roll, blanks into blanks or blanks into the side you don't need. But over time, the ability to roll one dice over lots of games, if you're willing to stick to Inhumans and learn how to play them and keep playing them, that's a curve. You will see yourself benefiting from that passive if you're playing Inhumans a lot.
Yeah. You just got to remember the reroll is technically worse than the extra die because you don't get crits and skulls and other, like, you are very unlikely to get more than your printed number of hits because you're not going to be, if you hit everything, you're not going to be re-rolling anything to get the extra hit. And then if you get a bunch of skulls, same thing, you don't have any dice to re-roll. You have to have a result in which you have failing dice that are not skulls, and then the ability to re-roll those into a success, and that can't be a critical. Like, it can't add dice anyway.
So I've got a quick question. That's something I have not thought about yet, because I've been thinking a lot of Inhumans as a contained team, the 4 characters. Who do you put with them? A-Force is an obvious option if you're doing a dual faction list, but what models in the game want to be in the Inhumans? What models?
The only thing I immediately notice is characters that obviously need a little bit more power to do their stuff, or just extremely efficient models to make up for their overpriced models. And it's weird because they're not overpriced, but they really only have 2 work models. And it's the Black Bolt and Medusa are like their 2 big work pieces, and 9 points for those 2 guys is just, it feels like a lot. And because they don't have, like, Black Bolt's supposed to be that big finish model, and he does good damage, but he's not on the S tier because he like, the rerolling 1 die is good. Maybe adding 2 dice to an attack roll is really good. But like, I don't see it coming together, but it might work better on the table than I see it on the card, so that's possible. Because like, if he spends the 3 power for focus power, and you've got a 7 die energy blast with Pierce, that is good. I just don't know if it's worth 3 power, because if it misses, like, all of a sudden you're out of power again. And unless he's getting hit, it's going to be a little bit until you get that power. Because everyone in this faction wants to spend power, like a lot of power. So it's going to be like X-Men and Cyclops. Like, yeah, you can give me the ability to move power around, but I'm not going to use it if I need the power, right? Like, you can't just say everyone makes Black Bolt work. Well, then Black Bolt isn't 15 points good, so that doesn't make sense, right?
So do you think maybe something like Vision, maybe Hawkeye, some of these models that are constantly attacking and getting, having excellent power efficiency might be useful for him?
I am hesitant to say Vision because the last thing you need is more points on support. Same thing with Wong. Like, those 2 are great power batteries. But this faction, I don't think you can afford any more dead points. I think I would immediately reach for work models.
You think
like
Vision
Valkyrie.
is? You think Vision is dead points? Vision hits like a truck.
No, but he's expensive. Like, now we're looking at a 19-point list, and you've got Vision's not a support model, but he's got points of his kit are in support, and like, then you've also got Lockjaw, who is 100% support. Like, that's a lot of low output models. Like, I think Vision's really good, but he's not a blitz machine. He's not going to just blow stuff up. He's actually very similar to Black Bolt in that he's going to have decent ranged attacks and then be able to finish people off at close range, but he has to build up to that.
Ooh, I just thought of an idea because A-Force might go with them. Valkyrie might be an interesting drop-in. Cheap, gains power, another throw. Valkyrie's always good anyway.
Yeah, no, I think Valkyrie, like I was saying, Valkyrie is, I think, the obvious add, just because you want more efficient models.
Mm-hmm.
And you could argue that she generates a lot of power because, she's Asgardian and she does a lot of damage with her strike.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I would ever intentionally take power off of Valkyrie to put on someone in this faction, but it's possible.
Is she that greedy with her power? Does she spend it down every turn?
Not really, but usually the turns that the only time you're going to have that option is like after you're already hard engaged. And it's like, well, is Valkyrie giving Black Bolt 1 power going to make that big of a difference? Like, maybe, yeah, after she's gone, like, all right, well, I ended up with 3 power I didn't need. Yeah, hand 1 over. I could see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like, well, I'm going to activate Valkyrie and give 1 to Black Bolt because that's the most important thing to do. It's going to be like extra. It's like, oh, well, randomly Crystal exploded on her dice and has 8 power, so I'm going to give 1 to somebody else. Like, I think that's the kind of stuff.
Crystal can't explode really on her dice because almost all of her attacks just give her 1 power, period.
Well, there you go. Maybe she just ends up not using her power. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe she gets shot for 8. Now she has power.
Yeah.
She gets shot for 8.
Yeah, I don't know. I see a lot of moving parts here, and it looks like the moving parts are going to line up into some gears, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and some stuff's going to start moving. I just don't know that the finished product on the table is going to be worth the effort, right? It's like, is this Rube Goldberg machine efficient enough to work? And I think it probably is, but I'm not overly inspired by it. It's like, yeah, the juice might be worth the squeeze, but it's just some pretty average juice.
Yeah, it's one of those... I guess maybe this is how I feel about them. They feel kind of like Asgardians to me. Asgardians are equally uninspiring, but the thing about Asgardians is they have, solid stats and they just gain 1 power. They just feel like Jedi, right? They're a little bit more expensive and they just are doing everything in the game a little bit better. And I feel like this faction does a similar thing. None of them is like super standout characters. None of them are insanely efficient, except perhaps Medusa. Actually, no, I'll say definitely Medusa. But they do all just... The fact that they all just mod a dice is just a little bit more. I think it's very similar. Thor, I feel like Thor and Black Bolt are very comparable leaders, and that their abilities are meh. Yeah. Like, they can kill things, but they can't be... They're not going to murder to house everything like a Magneto.
I actually really like your Asgardian comparison. I think that's a really fair comparison. The problem is they don't have the Valkyrie model in their faction.
Right.
Like, that's what they're missing. Like, I very much get the Black Bolt to Thor comparison. Although, I mean, honestly, I'd probably take Thor at 5 points. Because Thor is very directional. Like, you know what he's going to do. I think Black Bolt is going to be like a poor man's MODOK. It's very similar point cost. He has kind of a similar role in the team, but he goes about it a different way. But I can see if Black Bolt gets like 10 power, I can see him being terrifying. Because he's going to just keep spending power to do damage and get more power back. Mm-hmm. But if at any point that chain breaks, I can see him really falling off a cliff on damage. It's like, if you don't get your pierce, your opponent like explodes on their defense roll, and you're like, all right, well, I spent 3 power that I finally got to, and I got like 1 back. It's like, well, that's going to be how many more attacks until I can do it again. And so it's really about that first big attack. Does it land really hard, and you get a good refund from it? Because if that happens, I think you're kind of like MODOK. Like, once the wheel starts turning, it doesn't stop, because he has enough dice mods and enough dice adding to keep it going. But if it fails early, it's just going to be a long game.
So I've got...
Here's a hot take. Go ahead, Jeremy.
So the character that this faction needs, and this is not a joke, I think Black Dwarf lands exactly right for them. Almost everything in that list.
So everyone can...
Drags, pushes,
he gets moved
pulls,
by Lockjaw.
Yeah. And you jamming Black Dwarf...
I mean, that's...
Fucking... Oh my god. And he can bodyguard when you need it, so you don't have to flip characters necessarily. Like, for 4 points, being able to maneuver him the way you can pretty easily, that's pretty solid.
The only problem I have with Black Dwarf is that makes this a 19-point list.
Mm-hmm.
No, I would drop Crystal, to be honest. Looking at it right now.
She's worth it?
I think a maneuverability of the list, adding in Black Dwarf, puts a beater in the list along with Black Bolt. And then you've got Lockjaw and Medusa manipulating the board in a way that allows both of your beaters to really do it. Now,
you're losing one of their best affiliation cards, though, if you do that, because you have to have Crystal for that card.
Elemental
Really?
Infusion.
Yeah, it like lowers their defense, right?
No, Elemental Infusion is if it puts a bubble around
shake.
it puts a bubble around her as long as she's conscious. Everybody within 3 of her, if they suffer damage from any of your effects, they can immediately be given Incinerate, Stun, or Slow.
Yeah. So that's not as important as I remembered it. Still decent, but yeah.
I actually think
I don't know.
go ahead.
I really liked her because she was like the one efficient model I felt like in the list. Like, Medusa's great, but she's expensive. Black Bolt is also great, but expensive. And they kind of take some time to get going. Like, Medusa is very close range. I felt like she was going to be your early game, like, work piece because she's going to get into position and do stuff. I don't know. That's kind of my opinion. I know she's not incredible or anything. Like, you definitely don't need her, but I don't know. It feels bad to cut her, but that's just, I tend to try and keep teams together if I can.
Sure.
So it's the way my list building head works.
But I mean, if you need a 19-point drop.
Yeah, but I really like Black Dwarf in the list. I think he synergizes well.
Just kind of looking around at different characters. Who fits in there? And I mean, we always want to put Black Dwarf in stuff. It just doesn't always happen.
So you could do... Who do you put in then, though? Because that's only 16 points. I don't know. The points just are terrible in this. None of the points work out. I think you're supposed to just throw a 2-pointer in, but who the hell do you put in? Rocket, maybe? Rocket could stand next to Lockjaw.
He'd be funny because Rocket's always on his injured side. Like, there's some more.
I mean, saving Rocket might be good.
It's true.
One of the interesting things about all their tactics cards is none of their tactics cards lose efficiency by taking things outside of Inhuman, except, you're not getting the benefit for Adelan Rising. So you won't get 1 power. Right. But if you have a healthy Black Dwarf, Adelan Rising doesn't do anything anyway because it has to be an injured Inhuman to give other Inhumans. So, like you aren't really penalized like you are in some factions by having some out of faction drop-ins for sure. Last minute save doesn't require any of that. Adelan Rising, Terrigenesis, they're all just they need a Inhuman or a group of Inhumans. If you're playing the Inhuman faction, you've got 3 on the board. So. I think you can justify.
Or do you?
What's that?
Or do you? What if you only have 2?
Yeah, you could do like a third big Magneto or something like that. I'm not sure.
New 19-point list: Black Bolt, Medusa, Thanos. 10-point Thanos.
Nope.
How could it lose?
Can't
lose.
I can think of many ways.
Many ways.
There's many ways for that to lose. You ever drop like 13 dice and not kill a guy? That's Black Bolt.
Yes.
Just drop 13 dice. Oh, I get to reroll one.
I field dressing to Hulk after my opponent had finished activating and did back-to-back 14 die Hulk smashes, did 1 damage. I was so mad. I don't know if I've ever been so mad in this game. I was like, 28 dice, I got 1!
That's the only problem with those big dice rolls like that. I mean, that splash of dice and seeing nothing.
Even if you end up getting average, which seems to never, ever, ever happen, so what? You overkill them by 3? Like, how is that helpful? It's so inefficient and opens up the door for because those attacks are really, really expensive, both in, like, power cost, in other resources, and in like character costs. Like, people that can do that cost a shit ton of points because like damage output is the most premium thing in the game, like as far as threat level goes. So, like, you spend all these points to get them in your roster, and then you spend the resources in the game to make it happen with positioning and power cost, and you fucking roll bad, and it just feels so awful.
Yeah, I really wish Black Bolt did not have Whisper, and he costs 4 points. Like, that's what I want. Because I don't think there's anything about his card that's super great, and Whisper is what I think the reason why he costs 5. When you look at his stuff.
Yeah, I just don't see you ever spending 6 to do it. It just seems
and
they're like, "Yo, bro, I spent 3 for focus power, then 6 more for Whisper. I spent 9 power doing 11 dice beam." And you're like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And then what happened? It's like, "Oh, I did like 4 damage against 2 people." And we're like, "Okay, like, couldn't you have just like used that power in other ways and been a lot better?" Like, if you care about this kind of thing, just play Iron Man. Like, this guy is just the most overpriced Iron Man I've ever seen. Mm. He's obviously much better than Iron Man because he is 5 points, but like I'm just very uninspired. It's like, okay, I know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna play this guy. He's gonna be pretty solid through most of the game. I'm gonna line up the amazing attack, throw an 11 dice Whisper, and it's gonna disappoint me. I'm gonna hate the game. Like, it's just, I know what's gonna happen.
I just have a hard time getting past he can't hold objective points. I mean, I just don't. Being injured all the time, that sucks. There's a reason why Wolverine has a bad side, and on his bad side, he turns into a monster. And you have to kill him. Like, get him off the board right now.
But he only has 5 hit points on that side.
Well, yeah.
Like, this guy's only got 5 hit points on his healthy side.
I know, I don't get it.
I think this guy's still easier to kill than MODOK. Like, he's same point cost, easier to kill. Like, noticeably easier to kill, I would actually say.
Mm-hmm. He has to spend so much power to add 2 dice to his defense roll. That's so...
two power. That's pretty standard, actually.
I feel like he's going to be energy bolt. Like, his best use of him is just he's energy bolting all game long, standing on like a rear point, and then if somebody ever decides to go get him, they'll have to kill him also on his backside. I think that's going to be the way he's played.
Yeah, no, what you're going to do is you're going to try and bleed them out of activations as long as you can until they move someone within his range. Then you're going to teleport him with Lockjaw, and you just turret for the rest of the game.
Right.
And he's just going to roll energy bolt attacks against people. It's the only thing he does that's efficient.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which I guess is kind of like thematic for him. He just stands there and yells at people like,
"Get off my lawn! Get off my lawn!" Not Boltagar again. Shit.
Blackagar Boltagan.
Boltgar.
So it's like we're playing Bakugan. Like, what the fuck is happening? I don't know. I don't know who won it in Humans, but I'm mad at them. This could have been Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver coming out. You guys delayed my Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver for winning in Humans. So mad.
Yeah, it definitely got shoved up the pipe.
Every Black Bolt that comes out is not a Juggernaut. Fact. Like, I want Juggernaut. Let me have my Brotherhood. That's why I'm mostly mad. Like, they're probably fine. I'm not interested in their backstory at all. I'm not overly inspired by their kits. They seem okay. They seem very parasitic because they have a lot of, like, well, you have to take so many of these guys, and they're all like premium but not super premium, because I love super premium models. Like, I want Thanos's, Magneto's, MODOK's. Like, I want these models. I want to play with them. They're fun to play with. This guy doesn't look fun to play with. This guy just looks above average, like upper tier quality. Like, which is fine. It's just like, that's not my playstyle. I want efficient models, and this guy is not a picture of efficiency to me. And maybe I'll play it, like, Vision was kind of the same way. I looked at Vision, I was like, like, okay, maybe, but I played him, I like Vision, so maybe I'm wrong about this guy, but I'm still buying them. I'm still going to play them at some point. I'm just not overly excited about it. Okay. I don't think they're, like, trash. Like, they're clearly not Ant-Man and Wasp, right? Like, they're clearly better than that.
Well, this game escalates so quickly when it comes to the releases and how the game is played. I mean, A-Force just came out. I've yet to play against them because we just haven't had that time. And now we're getting an entire new faction. Came out.
She-Hulk was released.
Oh my god.
A-Force just came out. One model.
Yeah. Hey.
You mean She-Hulk was released?
It changed the paradigm of gaming. But I mean, there just isn't enough time to check it all out, and adding another kind of like, here's a new bunch of stuff to look at, and it's kind of like, I don't know. I kind of want to play with my other toys a little more, and then I'll get back to it. That's kind of how I feel about it. And then maybe looking at him and going, the dog would be cool here. So grab the dog, put the dog in, play with him for a little bit.
I have one more thing. I'll actually ask both of you guys. We talked earlier about Lockjaw and Follow Me. Who does Lockjaw say follow me? Who's the best follow me target in the game for Lockjaw? Curious. What do you think?
Oh, like I just absolutely want to go first on turn 2.
Yeah, you want to move.
MODOK.
You want to move and attack and follow me. Yeah.
So follow me here. Get it?
Yeah.
So no pun intended. So you line up your Inhumans roster, right? It's I don't know, drop crystal, put in MODOK. I think that's 17 points. Yeah, that's 17 points.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Black Bolt, Medusa, Lockjaw, MODOK. Turn 1, everyone gives the power to MODOK.
Oh my god.
Turn 2, and then you just move forward. You don't do anything crazy. Turn 1, you're just banking power. So that means turn 2, you activate. MODOK has been given 3 power. He's powered up for 2. He has 5 power. Then you activate Lockjaw. Lockjaw should have 7 power at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Gives 1 to MODOK. MODOK's up to 6. Spends 2 to teleport. Spends 3 to mark somebody. Then you play follow. Oh no, you can't do. You can't give power. Right, so MODOK only has 4 power because Lockjaw can't give me. Then you play follow me. MODOK activates turn 2 with 6 power first, and he's rolling 7 dice with a psionic beam. You kill somebody. He's dead. Thoughts?
Sounds like a great outfit.
Also, if you have a favorable board, you can play Smash with MODOK, which lets you destroy a piece of terrain with MODOK, and that's smaller than him, and he adds those dice to his attack rolls for the round. You can smash a kiosk that's size 3 because he's size 4, and so now he's rolling 10 dice, activating immediately after Lockjaw, getting placed within range 3, Omega Beams, right to the face. You might kill Hulk on turn 2.
That's true.
10 dice with rerolls? That's a lot of damage.
So
why does he need all the power? Out of curiosity, what is he doing with other than eating the terrain?
To guarantee you get the rerolls.
Oh, that's right, the rerolls.
Could also it also lets him like move people or throw stuff. But potentially, as long as the first attack does damage, you're good. Mm-hmm. It's really you want to guarantee the rerolls for that first attack.
Right.
Which, yeah, like 2 or 3 rolling that many dice is probably fine.
Yeah.
Because there's like no chance that doesn't do damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're sap powering also, so you're getting more power than that.
Ooh, I like it.
Just for everyone who's not aware, and you should be aware, Parker, what you've just described is your Kador list with Karchov. So congratulations. Congratulations, you did it.
You see, Karchev is a man infused with machine that has power over technology. Wait.
I see a trend.
No, but one of them is only a big face, and the other one is only a medium-sized face. Totally different.
True.
I will actually say this about the MODOK. I like this. I actually don't mind this about MODOK because you're actually not like throwing MODOK to the wolves because he's doing it all. You know, you're picking one bottle to take out, and you don't necessarily expose him to the entire team. And he's also MODOK, so. He probably, even though
worst case scenario, yeah. Well, worst case scenario, Lockjaw just pulls him back when he gets hurt.
That's true. Man. You can't kill him because
I'll save you.
That's actually
I'll save you, big guy.
Because that's the one thing I don't like about the Lockjaw follow me tactic is as soon as you throw somebody in there, like you did this really early initiative, attack, but then they're just dead, right? You put them in the middle of everything, and nobody has to work hard to kill them. But MODOK could actually do that and not expect to automatically die in return.
How about this? I think to be fair to the Inhumans, I think some people might have thought of this already. I will say they are a very outside the box list building faction when it comes to tactics cards, because a lot of tactics cards run into the problem of like, well, I need so much power here at such and such time, and other factions you're kind of at the mercy of the basic mechanics. Mm-hmm. As where this faction can choose to pile up all their power in certain places to do stuff. That's really cool. The problem being you have to play a lot of, in my opinion, not really cool models to make that happen. So it takes some of the fun out of it. But like I was talking about earlier, like seeing red. You can just put power on people to trigger seeing red. You can put power on people to trigger smash on turn 1, or you can do like tactical analysis. Like turn 1, I activate Black Bolt. He hands a power to Medusa. Medusa plays tactical analysis. I move short. And you're like, well, like, you couldn't do that in another affiliation because you couldn't move your power around. Mm-hmm. Like, people are playing advanced R&D to get certain tactic combos. Well, this faction is basically advanced R&D, the affiliation. Mm-hmm. Like, they hand their power to each other when they want to. And so I think the coolest thing about the Inhumans, by far to me, is their strange way they can interact with affiliations. Or not affiliations, tactics cards. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. So besides Follow Me, what's a tactics card you would love to be able to play, but you don't get to in any other faction?
Well, I mean, Follow Me is one, and so that's a good example. I mean, I guess I can just look through all the affiliations, the tactics cards real quick. The one that came to mind is stuff like tactical analysis early on. Things that let you move again are usually pretty good. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could pile up 5 power or 4 power on Black Bolt pretty early. Like, you could do that turn 2. You like turn 1, Crystal and Medusa give their power to Black Bolt. Lockjaw throws him forward. He blasts somebody twice. Next turn, you go first. He immediately activates and double blasts. All you've got, double blasts again. Then turn 3, you're injured, and you just do it again. And you just start nuking people.
That's right. Because he doesn't mind being injured. He basically, you only lose 5
like, your goals
health.
Get injured as quickly as possible. Why not just attack like 8 times by turn 2?
Yeah.
6 times, sorry.
That's cool. This is one of the reasons why I like Inhumans, is every time we look, I love the tactics variations, the variability. I think it's cool.
I'm just thinking putting Shuri in their list as well. Like everyone else, we like rerolls, but I mean, they already get a single reroll and then getting additional reroll. And you can put power on Shuri to ensure that she gets more. Not that she needs it; she's usually fine.
Yeah.
But just some more dice mods to kind of help it out a little bit.
Yeah. The only thing I'm worried about is that you have then 2 characters in your list that don't do damage. Like you have Lockjaw and Shuri, so 2 of your potentially 5 models are doing a grand total of like 5 damage throughout the game. That's the only thing I'm worried about. I think she synergizes pretty well. It's just, they're so weird. Like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Like, you have a low damage model on Crystal. You have a very low damage model in Lockjaw. And then you're adding in another very low damage model in Shuri. But you have so much, like, support piled in there that it might work. But the problem is, like, you play against one of those Cabal lists where they're like, hey, let me just delete X. And you're like, well, X was Black Bolt, and he's dead now, and you never got to attack. So this game sucks. You're like, what do you do now? Mm-hmm. It's like Thanos, like, scorpions your Black Bolt across the table and he just dies. You're like, well, I'm sad.
Yep. Thanos makes models sad.
Like Cosmic Portal, Mind Stone, throw, and you're like, uh-oh, and then Corvus Glaive just deletes him, and you're like, uh-oh. Well, I'll get to do something next turn. You're like, wait, I'm playing against Black Order, so he goes first, and then he just double deletes Black Bolt before he ever gets to attack, and you're like, well, this was unfortunate. I guess Medusa will carry this one for me, guys, as you look at the rest of your models that do no damage. And then you watch the same thing happen to Medusa. You're like, oops.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this
hair
faction fits with everything that's already out. I mean, they're definitely different, and they've got some cool stuff, but I don't know.
I think you can't. I think you've got to choose Crystal or Lockjaw most of the time. And I think you probably put them both in your roster, but I think, like you said, Brandon, I don't know if you can afford to have 2 characters that are going to contribute so little to the damage of the game when Medusa and Black Bolt are not Apex-level predators. So I think you're probably choosing one of those to drop. But you do have 3-point models in the game you can put in there that are going to put out a lot more damage efficiently. Like,
yeah, and while Crystal doesn't do a lot of damage, I think she adds a lot of value in being a skirmisher type model in your list. Like, she's really fast. She can get to the flank points. She can actually fight when she gets there, because a lot of skirmishing models aren't very good at actually fighting people. They're more just mobile, like Black Widow, people like that. Like, Zemo's good at it, obviously, and there's some other ones that are fine. But you can go pick on people that they just kind of throw to a side. Like, this guy's gonna go stand over here and basically never do anything. Like Toad's over on a flank, you can just go mess him up and come back. Like,
well, I think
you'll chase
Crystal's
him down.
biggest advantage is to run over and get next to, I don't know, She-Hulk and stun her. Then you're dealing with problems. Like, a stunned She-Hulk is a sad one. And she can make that happen pretty easily. I mean, she gets placed next to you and then hits you twice. You're probably going to get a wild in there, and suddenly she's stunned.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, shit.
Also, I think Crystal and Lockjaw actually think synergize really well with all their tactics cards.
That's
because, you can put up the infusion thing, and then Lockjaw throws her into the middle. And then right before she dies, he can pull her back if he wants to. And so there's a lot of cool stuff with that.
And also, do not forget, if you're willing to put her close enough to the fight, they can't shake it. Like they're just incinerated, slowed, and stunned. Like that's obnoxious, super obnoxious. She's one of the, like you said, she is kind of a combat-y 3-point character, but her debuffing is so sticky and bad for your opponent. It might just ruin their whole game plan.
Also, if you're thinking about it, like, so she attacks a lot if she has a lot of power. So if you're sitting around like second, third turn and you have a lot of power on Crystal, and you can be dumping that power on her over time, and then Lockjaw obviously generates a lot on his own, you can throw up Elemental Infusion, teleport her forward, follow me, she immediately activates, and she starts blasting people. She gets at least 3 attacks if she doesn't use her AoE, applying Incinerate and stuns and slows to everybody that she's next to. She can get a lot of negative effects up really fast that they can't get rid of, that really will change the pace of the game. So their only option at that point is to kill her. But even if they kill her, they're still debuffed. You've already got the debuffs down. They just can't get rid of them until she's gone. And so their option is run away or kill her. And so they kill her, meanwhile Black Bolt's just blowing them up in the background. It's like, oh, you're stunned and incinerated, so he's just like one-shotting you. You're getting 1 power for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, passing out stuns that cannot be shaken is really a kick in the balls. That's really tough.
I wonder how they interact with, like, obviously you just don't play that card versus oh no, that's not her card, that's just her passive ability, right?
Yeah,
yes.
Her passive is just you cannot shake things.
So I heard about some tech.
I'm just thinking about Asgard. Just removing the effects
with Web Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
She can hand out a bunch of slow, and then she just lands in the middle of them, and they can never shake slow with their all webbed up or whatever. And she can hand out more slows, so she can really get like a giant pile of people just moving slow.
Brandon, the ability says enemy characters performing a shake action while within 3 of this character may not remove the condition. So you can still remove the condition through tactics cards or
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is use the Asgard affiliation. Yeah,
Asgard hard counter to Crystal, new meta.
Did it?
Heard it here first. Oh, by the way,
I mean, if you think about it, I think they're actually pretty good versus Inhumans, because if you do that whisper super attack against Asgard, and you're like, well, one of them doesn't roll great, and the other one, they just Odin's Blessing, and then they both shake stagger with the affiliation bonus. You're like, what did I do? Like, did I actually do anything, or is this just bad?
The thing you did, Black Bolt, is you opened your mouth, you idiot. Just stand there and blast things.
Shut up. Shut up, dummy.
Shut up and blast things. He should spend 2 power to get extra dice, and that's what he should do.
All right, I think we've pretty much exhausted the Inhumans talk. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm good.
No, I'm good, and I'm excited.
All right. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and end the episode there, because there's definitely nothing else we have to talk about at all. I don't know any other segments we might have. I don't know. Parker, what do you think? We done?
It's up to you.
All right, fine. You can talk about your goddamn comic books. Go to sleep. Wake me up when he's done.
I actually want to talk about a comic book that actually doesn't have a lot of the characters in the comic book are not out in this game yet. One of the things I've been trying to do is always doing a comic corner about features a lot of characters from the game. But in honor of Deadpool coming out in X-Force, I wanted to talk about one of the most modern takes of Deadpool in X-Force, It's in a title called Uncanny X-Force. It's written by Rick Remender. Sorry, I almost butchered his name. And in this, it's a really long series. So if you want to get into it now, you can buy it in giant graphic novels. I think there's 3 different volumes. You can also buy it individual issues. It's very long. But I want to talk about the very first kind of arc in it because Uncanny X-Force did a couple really cool things. First of all, they brought a bunch of murderous X-Men characters together. So it's Wolverine, Psylocke, Phantom X, Deadpool, and Archangel. And it takes place after the first round of X-Force. The first Black Ops X-Men team was disbanded by Cyclops. He decided, we don't need him anymore because we beat the big bad guy. We don't need to murder people proactively. And Wolverine said, right, wink. And Cyclops goes, no, really, don't murder people anymore. He's like, got it, wink. He's like, no, please don't murder people. He's like, right. No wink that time. Cyclops assumed he was telling the truth and he walked away. He was a big fat liar. So Wolverine reforms the squad to go murder town on people, and basically they discover in the initial adventure that there's a new apocalypse that's going to be born, and the X-Force go to investigate how to murder him while he's still a child. And the moral quandary that ensues basically creates the entire giant arc. The first time I read this, I had no idea I was reading an X-Force comic because I thought I must have been reading something, a cross-title Marvel event, because so many super important things in the Marvel universe happen in this Uncanny X-Force issue. We get the establishment of the time-lapse dimension called the World. We found out where Tabula Rasa, which is kind of a new Savage Land kind of area in the Marvel universe, why it exists. It is birthed in Uncanny X-Force. And, of course, I'm talking about it right now because Deadpool is a feature character in this. Unlike the Cable and Deadpool and the Deadpool comics I've talked before, during the Skrull invasion and that kind of thing, this Deadpool is actually... his whole character arc is very much about growth, about becoming a better person, which is, weird because he's surrounded by dark and grim, dark all the time. It's all about murder town around him, and he's the comic relief in the issues. But he is the one who probably struggles the most with murdering a child apocalypse, and which is funny because he's the least, He's the least hinged character in the group. A lot of them have lots of moral quandaries, but he's the only one who really struggles with it. And so how the story evolves throughout Uncanny X-Force and how Deadpool specifically interacts with the apocalypse problem is fascinating, and one of the most interesting versions of Deadpool I've ever seen written. Definitely not your zany, kooky, I'm going to break the fourth wall a million times. I'm going to, turn a plastic explosives into a chair so you can sit on it and explode kind of thing that he does in other comics. It's more serious, but of course it's also Deadpool, so he makes wisecracks while he's also being serious. If you've never read Dark X-Men, like X-Force, Uncanny X-Force is a really interesting place to start because a lot of really big deals in the Marvel Universe come out of this series, and then also really interesting characterizations of characters that you might love from other comics like Deadpool and Wolverine. Interesting stuff.
Cool. Awesome. So is that a little bit of a throwback to the end of Deadpool 2 when, spoilers, he goes back and strangles baby Hitler? He's like, this is way harder than I thought it'd be.
I do, and one of the things I thought was kind of curious is maybe, Jeremy, you know more about Ancient Deadpool than I do, like Ancient Deadpool stuff and Ancient X-Force. When was he in X-Force with Cable? Because I have all the comics when he's with Cable without X-Force, and I have him when he's in this new X-Force with Wolverine, no Cable. Is he ever in X-Force with Cable?
I believe it was in...
Did that ever...
I mean, the first few X-Force, I believe he was in it. I mean, like,
okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, like, I have that bunch of them, and if I remember right, that he was.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think they were all together.
Cool. All right, well, that's probably going to do it for us today. Thank you guys for tuning in. This has been Brandon.
And Parker.
And Jeremy.
Thank you for listening to Hail Hydra.
I can't believe that was all cherry material. I mean,
yeah,
we missed out.
That hurt.
I have a very small consolation prize for you guys.
Okay.
As soon as I heard what you guys were talking about, I hit the backup recording. And so I think we have about 4 minutes of that goal.
Oh, really?
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
And also all that racist stuff you said right before that.
Oh.
Well, it was only racist now. I mean, in the 20s, it was just how people talked.
Yeah. I'm basically a grandpa.
Yeah. All of a sudden, sexual harassment 30 years later. Like,
a joke's a joke. It's always funny. I don't.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons I like F is for Family is because it takes place in the 70s.
Oh, God,
and they really embrace the offensive-ness of the 70s. And you're just like stuff happens, and then you're just like, what? Is no one going to address this? And they just move past it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
It's so great. Oh, boy. All right, so what's the over-under bet on how Jeremy can keep a straight face when he introduces himself?
Ooh. That's
what are the odds he actually just gets through it? I don't think he's going to get the words out.
I'm going to try really hard not to giggle at it. I'm going to try really hard. Mostly because I don't want to ruin the podcast with my constant coughing. Because my throat is so irritated at this point. I can barely think.
Oh my God.
My breaths are labored right now. Whew.
I gotta get him up. I gotta get him up again, just because it's so good. I keep looking at it, going, that can't really be true.
Oh, the names?
Yeah. It's like, what do you do? I shoot lasers out of my eyes. What's your name? Laser Eyes. Really? Really?
Leslie Iser is my name.
Laser Eyes.
What do you do? I shoot lasers out of my eyes. Like, God is one really fucked up guy, apparently. Like, he gets real bored up there. And he's got to just start naming people dumb shit. Yeah, like Telly Porter, and he's the Vanisher. And he teleports around. You're like, ugh.
Tellison Porter. Yeah, that's pretty. Yep.
Yeah. Some of those are like
a little on the nose.
They had to be stoned. Like, there was no way. They were like, this is cool. Like, they were like knee deep in mushrooms when they came up with these names.
Then the fact they were like, it's fine. No, really, just write it. Write it a couple times, it'll come to you. And everybody's still looking at it going,
worth a quarter.
Is this still happening? We went with that? I thought that was just a placeholder for something else.
Yeah, I get some of the really old stuff, like the back in the 30s and 40s, like comic book stuff. But like some of them is like, dude, this is like in the 90s. Like, who thought this was gonna fly? Like, Telly Porter, really?
Or just the fact, like, well, we've all gotten used to it, but truly, the best we could do is a guy named Superman. Superman? Like, really?
Well, I mean, to be fair, though, like, in the 30s, there wasn't, like, 100 comic book characters. Like, Superman was like, yeah.
Yeah, but they had, like, Viking names and shit back then, too, which were much cooler.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Big guy. Ultra Fist. Punch him a lot. Like, what are you talking? I don't know.
The first comic I ever held as a person was one of our local kids had this comic book collection, and he's like, hey, you can have a comic book. Which one do you want? It's like, well, I know about the Hulk. He seems cool. Oh, no, it was... And so I said, I want a Hulk comic. And he's like, well, I don't have any Hulk comics. I have a Thing comic. And I'm like, who's that? He's like, well, he's like the Hulk, but he's made of rock. I was like, well, that's dumb. But I guess that's all you have. I'll take it. And he gave it to me, and it's The Thing versus Diamond Head. I'm like, wait, a rock monster's fighting a diamond monster? How is this even close? He's literally just a dude with a giant diamond for a head, and like his whole body's made of diamonds. And he punches people and he steals jewels. Like I was like, this is dumb. Like this is real dumb.
That was the
it was a super old one too. Like the drawings were horrible. It was so dumb. I was like, nope, comics are stupid. I just moved past it.
Yeah, you could probably think of that.
Okay. Let me double check my volume. Make sure it's not moving all over the place. Okay. Hey, we're back to the age of audio difficulties. Isn't this fun?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we actually had a couple podcasts there. We're just
2 months, I think it was.
We had a good run.
Didn't have really any problems.
It was a good run. Well done.
We used up all of our good audio, unfortunately.
We need to save it for things like
the good audio season to come in and sprinkle in some more for us.
Crystalia and Equivalent. Crystalia. Is that a drink? Can you order that at a bar?
Yeah, Mequilin is actually something you take for headaches and fevers. Mequilin.
Is it like NyQuil? It's when you add liquor to NyQuil?
Yeah,
Put a shot of rum.
Yeah, Cristal and Mequilin is actually.
I hear the Oxy works better if you take it with a fifth of Jack.
Yeah. Cristal and Mequilin is basically just NyQuil and Zima.
Zima. NyQuil and Zima.
I wonder what they did with all that Zima. They had to have made a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Crystal.
On the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, there's they go to the future because, but they get there the long way around. they just like get cryogenically frozen and wake up like 100 years in the future. And the only humans left alive are in this like underground base because the world's been broken in half and from all the bullshit that's been going on. And so there's like, I don't know, a couple thousand humans living in this underground like army base. And it's basically turned into a space station. But one of the people there is a descendant of one of the people on the show. And so you find out he knows all these, like, he's always read about the lore, because he's like, oh, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were, like, heroes from back in the day. And so he's like, he read all he could about the 21st century. And he's like, yeah, like, I like, apparently Zimas were a really big hit because there's a bunch of people complaining that they were hard to find. It's like, because he's reading, like, old forum posts and shit. Like, just garbage. And he's like, yeah, man, it must have been awesome back when they had Zima, right? And they're like, who are you? Like, why are you talking to us? He's like, please go away. It's pretty funny. Oh, boy. No, I don't know if we're gonna have enough to talk about, because every time we try and talk about humans, you guys are just gonna resort into making up some of their names.
Oh my god, I'm gonna try really hard not to, because I'm purposely trying to tone it down. I'm not gonna be able to talk this whole time if I keep blowing up with this.
It's because it's so good. I think the very first thing we have to do is go through all of their names.
Oh, Jesus.
Because that's one of the best parts. we know now that all the Inhumans, Blackagar Boltagon, Crystalia Stupid Fuck.
Let's just say,
one at a time.
Let's just say there's a reason they live in exile. Nobody wants to talk to them because they have dumb names.
Yeah. Is that really your name? And they just fucking annihilates them. Like,
making Victor Shade look like a normal person.
Well, I mean, Pornby is certainly hanging with them.
But if you met someone named Mortimer Toynbee, you're like, all right, your parents were a very special kind of people. But like, you'd believe they were humans, right? Like Victor Shade, like you're not a human being, like you're an alien or something.
It'd be unfortunate.
Like you are not named by a person. Like I don't know why. Like I just immediately go to that. It's like, yeah, that guy is clearly not human. Like Mortimer Toynbee, I just like, okay, well your parents were like 800 years old. Like I don't know how else they could have named you that, or they hated you. Like they had your name changed after you were born because you were such a little shit. They wanted to make sure people knew that you were an asset. And they're just like, we're done with you.
That guy.
Do we want to... So neither of you guys are watching WandaVision, right?
Correct.
I have not watched WandaVision yet, no.
Okay. All right, so I won't give any spoilers because we don't do spoilers on this podcast. But I'm very in. I'm very excited for
You
what's
still in?
Good.
The last episode was still a good one. You were happy?
So episode 3 paid off the first 2 episodes, which are very slow. But there's like a reason they're doing it, and it's also a little bit of like cinematography, like they want to do stuff. But anyway, but yeah, the 3rd episode brings a lot of intrigue and like, okay, I'm ready to see where this is going. And then the 4th episode's like, yep, this is exactly what I was hoping for. Let's keep going.
It's funny you mentioned that.
Some waves being made.
It's funny you mentioned that. My
waves.
wife watched the first episode, and she said she immediately had to look up, like, when does the show become a show that it's a show? And then
Episode 3.
Yeah, so it's just, that's what it said. It said episode 3 it starts, and episode 4 it's what you want.
So they're on what episode right now? 5?
4 was last week, so we're on Friday.
Tomorrow.
Episode 5 comes out.
Okay. I'm getting close to starting to watch
Wednesday,
it.
But
I don't know, man. My schedule's so fucked up.
well, remember, it's going to take you 3 days to watch the first episode because you're going to have to keep stopping and like taking a break.
It'll be exhausting.
It's not that bad.
I have like mini shows I've just kind of started recently. Like I started watching Mr. Robot. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And the Stand is now fully on one of the streaming services. So I started watching that.
It's on the Pirate Bay streaming service.
Yeah, that one.
God, I can't even imagine. Do people still use Pirate Bay? I assume it's just a virus headquarters at this point.
You just go there to make sure you blow up a laptop.
Yeah. Guys, I went to Pirate Bay. Now I have the Pirate Bay operating system. Yep.
Pirate Bay
Good luck.
operating system.
Yeah, it is now operating my computer for me. It's great. I don't even have to download anything. It does it on its own. You're like, I would break that over my knee and throw it in the ocean, hopefully.
It's fine. It's like 4 of us share my computer. It's cool.
Yeah, only 4 people.
It's only 4 people.
My computer now farms something called Bitcoin when I'm not using it. I don't know why. It gets really hot now.
God. Are Bitcoins still a thing? Like, I thought they crashed.
Only if you invested after. If you're a normal person and you heard about Bitcoin and then invested, yeah, you probably lost a lot of money. But, I mean, that's because you got in at the top, which is when you want to get in for investing, I hear.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a good time.
Yeah. Speaking of investing, are you guys aware of the current Magic restricted list? Not restricted list, reserve list?
No, tell me.
No, what's wrong?
So, Magic, like 5 to 10 years ago, because there was so much speculation on what they would reprint, what they wouldn't reprint, and the older cards were becoming very collectible and scarce, they came up with a reserve list, which is basically say, to put you guys at ease for basically being able to collect these cards and not feel like you're getting robbed. Because the problem was, well, if I want to play Legacy or just collect the cards for nostalgia reasons, I want to spend like $9,000 on a set of Power 9. Well, is that worth my investment? Or in 6 months, if they get reprinted, is this going to be a worthless investment? Like, basically, should I sell my cards? Should I buy cards? What should I do? And so that ended up being that they released the reserve list. And they put like, I want to say it's like 20 to 50 cards that they said they would never, ever reprint. Anything they ever printed that mimics these cards would be noticeably different enough to where your card would still have value. And so, like, dual lands, for example, like, were on the reserve list. So they'll never reprint a true dual land. All the dual lands will have some caveat. Like, the example is the similar version of them now is they come into play tapped unless you pay 2 life. They're called shock lands. But basically, those lands are worth, like, about $20 each, depending on which one it is. And the dual lands are worth about $200 each, for example. But the shock lands aren't on the reserve list, so they keep reprinting those, and so every time they do, they come down in value. But anyway, because the reserve list was a thing, and they said we'll never, ever, ever reprint these under any circumstances, then all these cards effectively are a set value, because we'll never have more of them. We're only getting scarcer, right? Because the longer these things are out there, the more often they get damaged or lost, or even destroyed. So anyway, after that happened, some people started buying them up. So, well, I want to collect these because they're rare. And so they collect them kind of like Beanie Babies. It's like they don't actually get used for anything. They just sit there and they look at them and they're like, oh, look what I have. And it's like a complete...
It's just a collectible, yeah.
Right. But then a couple people were like, what if because let's say there's, for example, like some stupid like 10-cent rare that's on the reserve list, but it's so unique they said we'll never reprint it. And so like, well, even though this card isn't played in any of the formats, what if I just bought 100 of them and they're like $2 a piece? So I invest $200. Well, let's say there's only 1,000 in print or in circulation in the world. Well, now I own 20% of something that will never get bigger. And so then what if you invest $1,000 and you buy them all up at once? And that way, if anybody else wants them, now the price skyrockets because there's half the supply, same demand. And so that was what they called a buyout. The first one happened like, I want to say like 10, 15 years ago. And so, but that back then there wasn't a reserve list. Then when the reserve list came out, I was like, all right, well, we know what cards are never getting reprinted. And so now companies and investors and like actual corporations are investing by buying out Magic cards. And a lot of the companies, like their sole goal is basically a group of 10 people that have money and played Magic or play Magic. And they're like, well, how do we invest? Well, let's go pick a card. Like, let's say, I don't know, Flying Man from Beta or something. Like I'm not, that's not necessarily on the reserve list. I'm just saying as an example card. Some stupid card that's basically worthless. And so it's worth like $1.50 because it's so rare, but it isn't used for anything. Then they buy like 1,000 of the 1,500 in circulation. And because it happens quickly, the price doesn't necessarily go up immediately until they start getting to like, all right, well, now there's literally no supply. And so now you're buying them at $5 or $8 or $10. Then they get so rare that there's literally none available. And then the price starts skyrocketing because they just don't exist anywhere. But the only way the price stays high is if everybody holds on to them, right? Because as soon as the supply increases, the demand drops because that's basic economics. But there's some cards that are actually like valuable, like Dual Lands, Power 9, stuff like that. It's actually valuable because it has uses. But a lot of these cards are just like random garbage that like aren't really used for anything. So anyway, there's buyouts have been happening on random cards on the reserve list over the last like 10 years. And it's getting to the point where a lot of those cards are just unreasonably expensive solely because people are doing these buyouts. And so what's happening now is there's buyouts happening on Dual Lands and like Grim Monolith and some other actually usable cards. Because Dual Lands have always been valuable, just not to this point. Like when I played Magic back in like 2005, I want to say a Dual Land was like $20 to $40 depending on which Dual Land. Well, now an Underground Sea today is $510.
Jeez.
Like that's the exponential growth we're seeing. Like absolutely ridiculous. For example, we had a Serra Sanctum. We have like 5 Serra Sanctums at the store, which is, it's a legendary land. They said they would never reprint it. It jumped from like $60 to $280 in a month because someone is now doing a buyout on them. Because the card's kind of useful. Now people are like, well, if they're getting bought out, I better buy them. So it's just creating a higher and higher demand, kind of like the GameStop stock. And so because the demand just keeps skyrocketing, people are buying it for more and more because they're like, well, there's the limited options. Like once these run out, you can't get them. So people are just buying them for absurd amounts until eventually down the road, some of these companies and people are either going to retire or, you know, want to claim their investments. They're going to start unloading these things. And when this happens, when enough people start doing it to get the return on their investment, the supply is going to come back and the demand's going to drop and then the price is going to drop. And then I think it's going to be like a cascading ripple effect through all of the reserve list stuff. Because let's say, like, because I think someone was bragging at the store that a Black Lotus graded Mint 10 sold for like $500,000 this year. Like the biggest like Magic card ever sold, right? And it keeps getting reset every year because of inflation and buyouts and stuff. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what I heard at the shop. But anyway, just imagine what happens when one company that's got 6,000 Black Lotuses in stock drops 500 of them. And there's like, well, now there's a bunch more for sale, but to sell them, you have to price them slightly below market to actually get them to move quickly because they're so expensive. And so when that happens, well, then the price is going to come down a little bit. And when the price drops and anyone who watches stocks like, well, now maybe we should sell. So you're more likely to sell. And then it just cascades down just like it cascades up. And so I'm curious if it's in the next 5 to 10 years we're going to see that happen to Magic cards, and it's going to be interesting. Because as soon as it's like, okay, well, everyone's buying this, well, we know what happens when they buy it. Well, when everyone's selling and the price goes from, like a Mox Pearl, the white Mox, what happens when the price goes from $8,000 to $500 in a week? Like, well, now everyone is like, well, what the fuck? Like, do we buy them? Do we sell them? Like, what happens to it? Like, a card like that actually has value because it's played in different formats. Not very many, but some. But I don't know. It's just interesting to look at. I'm curious what's going to happen. Because they can't just keep going up forever, right? They have no actual functional value. A lot of them do. Because they're not played. Like, they're not cards that are used. They're just rare.
Yeah, that kind of collectability, it's interesting because, like you said, it only has value if there is a demand for it. And then therefore there's only a demand if it's also rare. So unlike some collectible things, this has not been like spread out amongst like, this is not like an antique, right? Like antique collectibles disappear because literally time gets them, and then individuals start to collect them. But this is not like,
they have a shelf life.
Yeah, like this is not really like an antique. This is more like you said, there are super buyers just like gorging themselves on it, artificially creating a value that they can't cash in on without dismantling the value. That's weird.
Yeah.
It'll
like what happens when
it'll only keep working until Saudi Arabia notices it and a prince just decides to fucking buy every Magic card on the market ever and just spends, $4 million of daddy's money. And all of a sudden there's no fucking rares anymore at all. And then where? It's silly like that. It's weird because it's the 1% of 1% collectors have something that's like super valuable. It's like, oh my God, how did that happen?
You get to the point where the only person you can sell your buyout cards to is someone that's buying out the same card. Mm-hmm. That's literally the market. Mm-hmm. Like, nobody's buying fucking Flying Man for $300 because everyone's bought it out and it's impossible to find. It's literally only valuable to people that are trying to get a return on investment.
Right.
And and that only works if you actually sell them. And maybe they're doing the thing where they do a very slow trickle bleed over time. Like, we buy 500 in a year, and then we sell one every 6 months, right? Like, maybe that would work. But again, who are you selling it to? The card's only that expensive because you're buying it at that price.
Right.
I won't buy
because the regular random person isn't.
I would never buy Blood Mox Diamonds. Ever.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that's...
Yeah, it's...
What I think you hinted at, like, where it's going to, which is like a lot of the way that currently, like, trust and bonds and debt and stuff like that is traded. It has no value except for other people who want to own that value. And so that might be how it's going. That's how people are looking at it, going, okay, well, I'll buy, $6,000 worth of cards because there will be some other person like me that will want this $6,000 worth of cards. And so I will wait until it becomes $7,000 worth of card and then sell it to that one other person for a profit of $1,000. And they're looking to get, $8,000 eventually when it becomes even more rare. And it's just, but it's all made up money, right? It's all made up value. There's no actual value because, like you said, there's no one in the world that can actually buy it all. There's no consumer at like the consumer level that wants to buy it. They're just trading the concept of its value. They're trading ephemeral nothing.
Yeah.
It's like the Wolf of Wall Street saying, right? He's like you're just selling like an idea. You're selling, Fugazi, just nothing. You're just selling the concept of a money, and people will work with that. People will want that. And then you will profit from the difference. That's what you're looking for. It's just, what's the difference between what I have and what people think it's worth? Can I make it?
Sure. I would still argue in almost every example that you could give that the item actually has some value. Like, when people buy up debt, it's because they believe they can eventually make some portion of that back.
Right.
And you're usually buying it at 10% value. Mm-hmm. Like, if someone owes you $1 million of random debts, mm-hmm. and then you're like, oh, okay, well, I'll buy that for, I don't know, like $100,000, and then you're hoping to make $150 off of the final debt payments. And sometimes you don't, sometimes you do, whatever. But yeah, like on bonds, like bonds have a value. Like they have a promised value on the bonds. Like sometimes they're different, but yeah. And people are like, well, paper money doesn't have any value. It's like, yeah, it does. Like,
yeah, it does.
It's traded as a commerce and like a currency.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's actually useful. You can't take this somewhere and be like, hey, give me this for it. It's
right.
like I would say the majority of card shops in the world, like if you take the average and what's below the line, they wouldn't even want to trade for a Black Lotus. Like, what's the point? No one's gonna buy it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, here, look, I actually am curious. I'm gonna look it up right now. TCGplayer.com.
Somebody selling a Black Lotus online.
Oh, I mean, there's listings. Black Lotus. All right, Black Lotus from beta, the good one. Listings as low as $42,000. Like, what? Like, are you serious? Like, no one's gonna fucking buy this.
Wow.
Here we go. Damaged. Corner bent damaged. $23,500. It's not even in good condition. It's in awful condition. Damaged is basically saying that you can't play this in a tournament. It's in such bad shape that you could tell what card it is through the sleeve. Like, that's how bad damaged is. Like, so it's like $25,000. It's like, what random store are you gonna walk into? Like, we could go down to 31st Century, drop down the table. It's like, what's a fair price? It's like, what do you mean, what's a fair price? They don't have $20,000 to give you. Mm-hmm. They're like barely keeping the fucking lights open. There's a goddamn pandemic going on. Like, how the fuck do you expect to sell this? It's like, yeah, let me just go down and trade my BMW M3 in for this Black Lotus damaged. You're like, what? That's not a trade. Like, there's no value there. It's like, all you're going to do is put it in a safety deposit box that you have to pay money on and insurance in case there's a fucking fire. And then like, okay, so you do that for 10 years now. What? Hopefully it hasn't crashed. Like, I just don't see how this is going to end well for everyone involved. I'm sure there's some people who are going to make a lot of money. I think way more people are going to lose a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Is basically what I'm saying. It's going to be like Bitcoin. The early guys are going to make a killing if they do it right. And everyone else is going to end up being okay or screwed. It's like those pyramid scheme guys. Someone made a lot of money, but it probably wasn't you.
Right. It's not the bottom.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, random rant. Just what I dealt with for like the last 3 hours of my day.
Oh, did you really?
Well, I mean, it was conversation. I mean, I wasn't actively, working with this specifically, but like some guy came in, wanted to trade in a Grim Monolith that, I think it was like $100 last time I looked it up, which was like 6 months ago. But today you can find prices anywhere from $225 to $450. And it's like, how do you do a trade-in value on that card? Like, it's just skyrocketing. It's like we basically can't buy it. Because if we buy it and it stops skyrocketing, we're screwed. If we buy it and it goes down, we're screwed. The only way we can make any money and the guy will be happy is if we buy it and it keeps going up. That's the best case scenario in which he still got screwed. There's no one can benefit from this situation.
Yeah, it's a weird deal.
There's no win-win. Someone's always losing. Yeah. And it's only happening because some jackass is like fucking like, hey guys, let's buy out this fucking stupid Magic card. That'll let us retire. Like, whatever. And we thought the housing market was dumb. Anyway, let's get on to MCP topics. What's better, losing your house because of the housing market or losing your house because you bought Magic cards? What's better?
Well, you imagine? I just imagine like the married couple, and they're like, you know what? Granddad left us. He passed away, left us $50,000. I've made a very wise investment. I don't really want to talk to you about it.
Well, just imagine. We were just talking about FS for Family taking place in the 70s. In the 70s, they're like, honey, don't worry about it. I'll take care of the finances. And then he's just like investing in Magic cards. It's like one person does the finances and we just move past it. It's like, we're just going to assume that's the right person to do it. Like, whatever. And it's just like, meanwhile, it's okay, honey. I have a heavy investment in Mickey Mantle baseball cards. Like, the Topps baseball cards? No, my friend's making his own baseball cards in his shop. But trust me, they're going to be just as good as Topps one day. You're like,
Yeah. So you didn't get to play any games this
All right.
week. Is that true?
No, I have 0 games so far this week.
No losses. Perfect.
Yep, undefeated. All
You
right, let's get into it.
Did you do any forums? Did you look up anything?
Should I? I did not. I'm not going to now. It's too late.
Okay.
If you guys had said something earlier, maybe.
If you weren't fucking with your audio for 6 hours.
You shut up.
Shut your damn mouth. Yes. Did it. Hydra.
Oh, I've got.
Alrighty.
I think I've got a new good. I think I've got a new good podcast name.
Put it on the list.
Let's see where is the podcast name list? It's on
Podcast names.
there. It is. Okay.
Page 4.
Okay. What do I do? Above the line or below the line?
Above the line. Above the line has not been used. As you can see, we're running out.
Okay.
This is going to be so bad. In. Strong.
I like it.
What the fuck? I don't get it.
Okay, here. Let me. I had to go look at that last part.
Oh, okay, you have to look up how to spell the name that you're deciding to use. Oh, I see. Okay. All right. So should we make them wait before I explain the title of the episode, or should we put that in now?
What's the title of the episode?
What's the title?
The gang goes to the toenail dimension.
Oh my god.
We didn't record the toenail dimension. We didn't record that. I don't remember.
I think I have the emergency recording, the backup in case our audio fails. I think I had that going when you guys were going off the deep end.
Listen, that was gold.
Yeah, it's pure inspiration.
Lightning doesn't strike twice.
Yeah, I know. So, and to explain the Hill Hydra, we were dead on our predictions last week. Boom.
Yeah, we were.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, looking back, it wasn't that hard, but we fucking nailed it.
Wait, do we know? Is it confirmed, Madam Hydra and?
Yeah, they announced it today. It's Madam Hydra and Viper, Sin and Viper.
Sin and Viper. Nice. Where did they announce that?
I don't know. It's on fucking social media or something. They uploaded videos instead of pictures, and the videos slowly unfade to those two characters.
Nice.
And then they said, blah, 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 Hydra, like 2 Hydra characters. They did not, however, say that there's going to be a Hydra faction because you're a dumbass and that's stupid. I think.
Why do you? This is actually, I'd actually like to know. Maybe you explained this last week. Why do you really not want that to happen?
I do want that to happen. I want there to be more smaller factions than large, huge factions. I just don't think we're ever going to get that. I think their plan is to make ginormous factions. Like every faction's going to be like 15 people plus.
Okay.
I want to see lots of like 6 to 8 character factions and have like 20 of them. But apparently they wanted to have 8 20 character factions instead. And so I'm not mad at you. I'm annoyed that's not what's happening. I don't like the enormous factions because I think it takes away from creativity. You just end up playing the best 5 models in your faction. Because why would you try and take things outside your affiliation when your affiliation is everybody? Like, it's just annoying.
I have a hot take. I just realized there's another Hydra model in this game. There's going to be Viper, Sin, Red Skull, Zemo, and Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier was a Hydra agent for a while.
Crossbones is also Hydra.
Crossbones, yes. Yeah. So there's 6. There's 6 possible models they could put. That's not a small faction.
That's smaller than every other faction we have right now.
Sinister Six doesn't have 6. I only think Sinister Six has the Sinister Six. I thought that we were joking that Sinister Six only has 5 members. Am I crazy that I remember that?
I mean, we were joking about it because it's not true. Oh, Spider Foes. It's not Sinister Six.
Oh yeah, Spider Foes.
They have 6 right now. Oh no, this didn't pull up right. Hold on. Spider-Foes.
Spider Foes needs to
There's
be
just 3.
fixed. It really needs some work.
I mean, their fucking characters aren't out yet.
Yeah.
We're waiting on Mysterio and Carnage still. This isn't right. Why isn't this? MCPDB is not correct. Hold on. Let me pull this up correctly. I guess I'll just pull up the affiliation list. Organized play. Affiliations. It's 6 right now. Green Goblin, Carnage, Doc Ock, Kingpin, Mysterio, Venom. I think we'll get more though. I think Venom and Carnage might come out at the same time as some other Web Warriors or Spider Foes. Sorry, I keep saying Web Warriors. Yeah, I would like to see lots of small factions that are more specific, and maybe we will, but I don't see it happening. Like, I don't think we'll get Marauders. I think Marauders are just going to be lumped into Brotherhood. I don't think we'll get Hydra. I think it'll be lumped into Cabal.
You're just mad that it's not Brotherhood. Everything coming out that's not Brotherhood is making you mad.
That is true.
Fact.
Yeah. Also, how is Pyro not on the Brotherhood list, but Toad is? And Blob. Like, we have Toad, but not Blob? Like, that's clearly just not announced yet, right?
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
It's just like Jean Grey. Like, Jean Grey is going to be in the game. She'll probably be in the game as Phoenix, but she's going to be in the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like they wanted to do the carryover models first, I think. Like, Sabretooth is less of a Brotherhood character than Pyro. Like, Pyro has pretty much always been a Brotherhood character, right?
Yeah.
Like, Sabretooth's more of like a rogue. Like, he's part of the Brotherhood, kind of, and he's part of the Marauders, kind of, but he's kind of does his own fucking thing, which is fuck off in the woods and be an asshole.
Well, I mean, they went specifically after X-Men, the first movie that came out. Like, everything in that is like the format that they're using, or they used. Toad, Sabretooth, Mystique, like all of them. That whole Brotherhood gang. Yeah, like, that's what they went through.
Yeah, okay.
So it's going to start to unravel, and I think that they're going to loosen up and start adding the things they need. Like, has Blob even been in a movie? I think Blob was in fucking terrible Wolverine movie or something.
Wolverine Origins.
Yes. Yep. So I mean, they'll eventually
Deadpool.
get there. Oh, shut up. We don't speak
He's a pool
of
of
such
dead
things.
mutants. The Deadpool.
Is that what he says in that movie? Oh my god!
I think he does. He says like he's
it's
a pool
fucking horrible
of dead. He's a pool of the dead.
Don't think they say that.
I think he does when he's describing.
I don't actually think they call him Deadpool.
No.
Except for at the very beginning. No, they just call him Wade. They don't actually call him Deadpool.
Yeah, we
he's not
finally
Deadpool
found
yet.
out how to shut you up / give you dumbass powers.
Yeah. And they had a scene, they had like a quick cut scene where they go into a high school, like a public high school, and like kidnap Scott Summers. And that's how they justified giving Deadpool laser eyes. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, you had to put that in the movie? Like, it was so stupid already. Like, but you had to involve other people in your shittery. Like, just leave it alone.
Yeah, that was really messed up. It was another moment where people were looking at me while we're at the theater, and like normally I could explain things, and I'm just shrugging. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, we're all lost.
This is interesting. Let's see where they go with this.
I'm like, I don't know. This isn't what I don't know what this is.
All right. Well, I'm tapped out, I think. Are you guys good to wrap it up?
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm pretty exhausted.
You have had to work 4 days in a row.
Working like every. I know, man. This actually, I've only worked 3 days in a row now.
Shit.
It's still hard.
You must be
I
exhausted.
had a whole day off in between. Yeah. Well, I mean, I have worked 9 of the last 10 days.
Okay, I'll give you a little credit.
Honestly, I think it was the fucking weather is fucking made me tired more than anything. It took me like a 45 minutes drive to work and home because the roads were straight ice on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking obnoxious.
Yeah, they did like 0 road clearing over the weekend.
Well, one of the problems with it over the weekend was it's so fucking cold, it doesn't move. Like, you actually have to push it off with your fingers. That's like the way to get it off the road. It's not going to come off any other way. Yeah. Like,
well, usually they put down beet juice, and if anybody doesn't live in the Midwest, beet juice is technically beet juice, but it's got other shit in it too. It's basically like a salt liquid. It's like It's basically like antifreeze for the road. And they just pour it over the top, and it prevents the melting snow from actually like refreezing. And so it's actually really important. A lot of places use salt, but the salt's actually really hard on the roads, as where like the salty liquid is not as bad because it will actually wash away when the snow melts and not just sit on the road for 4 months. But yeah, anyway, if you don't do that, the warm tires driving over the snow melt it, and then you have this nice thin sheet of water on the road, which then immediately freezes. And then you basically just bowling alleys. It's basically just
bowling alleys.
Bowling alleys.
Nice.
Yeah, it's bowling alleys with really heavy balls. It's like 3,200 pound balls.
Oh my god.
All right, let's get out of here.